Welcome to Tremendous Talk. We got the industry, tea, and the jokes. Actors, directors, musicians, and more. You're listening to Tremendous Talk.
I was gonna chee-hoo, but I'm gonna bail on that.
Oh
And instead, I'm just gonna say hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Tremendous Talk podcast. My name is Law.
Hi, I'm Ashley. We are still crying and emotionally distraught to an extreme degree from this. I cannot even explain to you how amazing this conversation. Well, I mean, you're about to listen to it, so you're gonna see it too. But oh my God, the way this conversation has ignited my soul, given me so much hope, joy, just like buzzing feeling. Like I feel so like the world is a dark place right now. But for this brief moment of time, I really felt like it wasn't, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, this is you can always tell when we record our intros before or after an episode because we are so greatly changed in energy after like a great episode. And our this week's guest is really special. So this week on the podcast we have Hualālai Chung. Hua is known as Moni in Moana 2. If you've seen the film, he's the storyteller, best bud of our dear Moana, and he is an infectious light just like his character.
Oh my gosh, please, like, I can't wait for everybody to listen in on his casting process and like his moments in the booth. Like, those were some of the most in my journey in entertainment. That story has to be one of my favorite stories of all entertainment that I've ever heard. So, like, really hit my soul. But this dude, he began his journey at Aulani, actually. One of his journeys, one of his several journeys, we found out during this conversation, his parents were actually actors as well. His family are like, it's a Disney family. So this is so in key and it all feels like it makes sense so much. He's an expert fire knife performer. Tons of really cool stuff. He's a musician. And he's like always just sharing his culture and community through song and dance and everything that he does and telling stories. So
yeah, he is a musician. We've mentioned that, but like he's also on Rescue High Surf, NCIS Hawaii. He's going to be in the live action Lilo and Stitch when it comes out in May, which we got to talk a little bit about that film and that experience as well. But we're just so excited to have him, and I think you guys are going to really love him as a guest too.
yes, and if you fall in love with him, you can listen to his single "Let Go" that just released on all streaming platforms, actually, like very recently. So that's pretty cool.
Yes, so in this episode, we dive into all that. Moana 2, being Moni, the epic world of Disney animation, the journey of his in entertainment, and what it's like to represent Pasifika in entertainment.
What a conversation. Welcome to the Tremendous Talk podcast, Hualālai Chung.
Woo!
Woo! Oh, that was really good.
That was better.
That sounded really good.
Right,
Joey, what do you think? Did that sound okay?
Sounds good.
Okay, cool. You got producer approval. Time to start the episode, everyone.
Enjoy, guys. Sorry, I'm taking over. Welcome to the podcast. Tell us all your guitars in the background.
Yes. Takamine, Telecaster, Ibanez.
He's looking around the room for more instruments.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like everything else that we got going on.
Sorry to jump into that. My name is Ashley. This is Law. Welcome to the Tremendous Talk podcast.
Well, everybody, I'm Hualālai. Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you so much for taking time to join us. I have to imagine you're coming off of like a pretty exciting time with all the promotion from Moana 2 and it looks like you're settled. Are you at home right now? Are you settled back at home?
Yeah, we're back home in Kaneohe, Oahu, in the beautiful rainy city.
Oh, beautiful. I was just in Oahu and it started raining as I left. So I was like, I kind of missed the tropical storm. But
Nice.
Tell us a little bit about, I'm just curious about the journey after the fact. Like you're like after the press tour, after doing junkets and stuff, what does life look like for you right now?
I mean, it's been this whole series of auditions and meetings, and like it's so weird to be in certain rooms, like in certain meetings, talking to these types of people, talking about the types of projects that they're interested in me for. And I mean, it's all things that, like like TV series and animated films and all this kind of stuff that I grew up like watching, and now there's interest in me being part of it. That's
Mhm.
crazy. Like in my wildest dreams, never, if you were to tell me that that's what life was going to look like, if you were to tell me that like 5 years ago, I would think you were like high off of something like crazy. So that's basically life. And I mean, all in all, just keep trekking on and just trying to do the best that we can to represent our people, man.
Absolutely. Can I ask, was it clearly like a night and day shift of like what your life looked like, Moana 2, and then what your life looks like now? Does it feel like your life really did change, like a flip of the coin, basically?
So there's two aspects of that, right? So there's like the exterior aspect of that where it's just like, like how life is outside and around me. So things are definitely different. Like I get recognized, I get posed questions, I get like somewhat fandom. I got my first dirty underwear buy
Ah,
request. Like
Whoa.
a couple months ago. That was crazy. But then there's also like, the interior, the mindset shift that I feel like I have to have the responsibility for, like I've been super blessed and grateful to have conversations with a lot of amazing talents and especially a lot that represent Pacific Islanders. So, they've kind of spoken wisdom into me to the idea that like, if you want to represent pridefully, you want to go as far as you're willing to go and you want to make everybody proud, like your mind got to do that. So you got to
Mm,
step up. So it's been a battle to say the least, but it's been a fun battle and everything's been just amazing. Yeah.
awesome. Glad to hear it. Glad to hear it.
that pressure though, that's so interesting. Like you literally, I went on Shop Disney the other day and I just looked like you have at least like six figures, six action figures out now, like toys and play sets that are literally of you, of your character. That, how do you deal with that pressure of like representing the community and being faithful to community and being authentic and genuine at the same time while also just like I am this action figure now, but also like I have to do this like with respect to the people that I represent.
Yeah. I mean, I'm super lucky because the film I was part of kind of paved the way and created a blueprint, right? For all of that, and that's one of the things that I feel like people loved about the story about Moana so much is it's such a portrayal of how to go for what your heart desires, to go for your dreams and everything, to do it in a respectful way, to do it in a heartfelt way, to do it in a way that, you got to understand you're not going to please everybody, but know what's in your heart. Know that the people that love you, the people that are on your side, they're gonna be there to support you. They're gonna be there to fight with you. So kind of following in the footsteps of that, as well as following in the footsteps of a lot of my fellow cast members, being able to talk with people like Aulani, and build relationship with people like her and talk to guys like DJ The Rock, like they've spoken so much
Sorry,
wisdom.
did you just call The Rock DJ?
That's DJ Dwayne
That's
Johnson.
Dwayne
That's the
Johnson,
homie.
DJ.
Even that's so wild.
Yeah. So I mean, like it's definitely something that I don't take it lightly, taking that kind of responsibility and taking that kind of role like in stride. But I feel like the only way to do it right is to bite off a big piece of it, is
Ooh.
to take off running with it, audition for everything I can, be the best that I can with everything, make sure I'm not outside going crazy, like make sure I'm representing well, so on and so forth.
I have to ask because we had Dana Ledoux Miller a couple times on this podcast. The first time that she was on, she mentioned the power that seeing Moana had because there's like I'm seeing Pacifica people in a way that I've never seen them before, and so it makes me curious. Like for you growing up, where did you seek representation in mainstream media and then maybe even locally?
Like I grew up in Hawaii here, where like, and I'm so glad that I can say I'm a kid of the '90s. Where it's
Mhm.
like mainstream media is not our life. Like that was not our life. We rode bikes. The time
Yeah.
when to be home was by when the street lights came on. That kind of stuff. You don't need Find My to see where all your friends are at. Just go by which house they get all the bikes sitting outside. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
Like I think we seeked representation in community. And I'm so glad, like my parents were avid entertainers here in Hawaii. So I grew up in the entertainment industry. So to see role models who represented our people in the entertainment industry, both locally and abroad, was well within my reach and well within my bounds of sight. So I got to see a lot of like amazing role models. I mean, my dad is one of the biggest role models that I have. I mean, he was an actor a long time growing up. You know, I was a stubborn kid, so he would always say like, "Oh, you should get into acting. You should do this." And I was like, "Ah, no, I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm okay." It wasn't until later on in life, you know, like just a few years ago that I started getting into it that I was like, "Okay, this guy knew what he was talking about this whole time." Like I probably should have listened to him like long time ago. But, you know, like so to seek that representation was so I guess easy. You know, like I grew up around people that speak indigenous languages. I grew up around people that are all about Polynesian performing arts, hula, fire knife dancing, Tahitian dancing. You know, that's all stuff that I'm passionate about, period. And that's why this whole experience with Moana was so amazing. I grew up such a big Disney kid because I just love everything that Disney does for people and how Disney makes people feel. And I remember pre-COVID walking through Main Street and just thinking, man, if there's ever an opportunity to pair up like my love for Polynesian culture, you know, Tangata Pasifika and everything with what Disney does, oh my goodness, that would be crazy. And we got that call from Walt Disney Animation. We were like, oh my gosh.
That's
Oh,
crazy.
profanity, profanity, profanity.
Hey, listen, you could curse on this podcast if you want to, but we accept it. We feel that energy.
Right.
That's such a cool story though, because like just being I live near the Disney Animation Studios. Just driving by it, I get excited because it's like, man, that's where they make the movies, right? And to
Yeah,
be a part of that history for
totally.
so many young, like such a young generation with such a great character, by the way,
Oh,
it must be such a dream come true.
yeah, totally. I mean, even in all my experiences going and visiting Burbank and going to the studio,
Mhm.
being able to walk by, being able to meet Eric, who drew like some of the original like hand-drawn animated characters from the genie to Aladdin to everything. You know, like meeting all these people and being like, wow, you guys like you guys end my entire childhood. That's crazy.
Amazing.
I did a stalk on you a little bit. You got one of your starts with Disney at Aulani, right?
Yeah, so I've been a luau performer and a Polynesian performer here in Hawaii for the longest time. And back in 2017, the production company I'm with partnered with Disney, which was actually pretty cool and momentous because it was the first time that Disney ever contracted and partnered with a third party entertainment company, you know, to create an entertainment offering at one of their resorts or one of their properties. Because Disney
No.
always does everything in-house, you know, like
Mm.
they'll bring in you know, like consultants, they'll bring on like choreographers, so on and so forth, and produce it in-house. But this is the first time, I believe, in Disney history that they've ever outsourced to another agency or another organization. And it was really just for authenticity of what they were trying to create, you know, like so to be part of that organization and to be part of that show was something that was super cool. So I mean, we depict so many different stories of that region of the island of Oahu on a nightly basis, and to do it from a cultural perspective, like authentic, paired with how Disney does live entertainment, live production. Oh, it's so much fun.
Oh
That's
my
awesome.
gosh. I really have to give it up for the level of authenticity that Disney brought to Mont. Like, since speaking with Dana, we got to learn about the cultural consultants and everything that's happening. But for them to just trust you guys to show up, do what you do best, like do what you know, perform like in your culture, that's so beautiful. Just that trust and that awareness is great. But I want to know from Fire Knife Performing, you're also a musician. You just got your single release, Let Go. You're an actor, you're a voiceover artist, you're accepting all these roles. You're now a representative of Pacifica culture. How do you balance it all now?
A lot of this, a lot of Coca-Cola and McDonald's, that helps a lot. If that's going to create branding issues and
Yeah.
copyright issues,
No,
I'm
give us
so
that
sorry.
sponsorship. We want
Yeah,
it.
we'll try to get you get that McDonald's and Coca-Cola sponsorship, but lots of soda. Nah, I think it's honestly I'm really grateful that I have a really strong community. I have a really strong community, a really strong family. You know, we always say over here it takes a village. So,
Mhm.
and when one of us wins, we all win. So that's one of the coolest things about being over here is that, you know, if there's ever times where I have shortcomings, I can always rely on people around me to like help me pick up the slack, even if it's just to be motivating, you know, to talk to me, to be somebody that before I go to sleep at night, you know, if I had a stressful day and if my mind is racing, I can call someone and just verbal diarrhea all over them and just let it all out. So at least I can get a sound night's sleep so I can
Yeah.
wake up the next day like ready to go. And I don't know, it's just all so fun. You know,
Mhm.
like it's just all of this is just it's it's so fun, even more so to see the impact that all of this has on other people. You know, when I perform, if I dance as a fire next dancer, you know, you do things like you lick the fire, and to see the wow and the craze in people's face, that's what makes it all worth it. You know, when I write a song, if I some of the songs I've written that am releasing over time, that I've shown to some people, you know, when I see somebody cry, when I see somebody just smile from ear to ear, like that's where I'm like, okay, I did my job, like as a songwriter, because then they feel it, you know. If I act in a role, or if I play a character, if I voice a character, to see that people enjoy the character or feel connected to, or feel seen, then I feel like that's what it's all about. And by doing so, how can you not love that, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing such like brightness to this. Usually, like press stuff can get really fatiguing and talking about the movie that you've been in can be really fatiguing, but it's just so lovely to see that you're just so exciting and you have this like freshness and just so much gratitude and joy. Like it's effervescent and you can feel every ounce of it from behind the screen. So I just want to thank you so much for that.
Oh, thank you guys. Yeah, no, it's so easy to talk about stuff that, you know, you're so passionate and like in love with, especially when
Yeah.
people are like in love with it too. You know, I mean, realistically, I would be nothing without anybody else being interested in what I do. So, I mean, it's only fair, and it only makes so much more sense for me to get excited about it when people are excited about it, you know?
Yeah. You'd be surprised how jaded people get and how
Oh,
quickly. So the
I
fact that
bet.
you're beaming and as you speak about these things that you're passionate about, it does that stuff affects us. Ash and I are like big energy
Contagious,
people,
baby.
and we've been very grateful for guests like yourself that like do instill that in us too. So it's good. Good vibes, man.
Thank you.
I do have to say though, this like energy that you give, it's kind of similar to your character, dude. Like, I do want to get more in. Like, you're a storyteller. It's very obvious you're a storyteller in everything you do, from your dancing to your songwriting to the voiceover work and the acting work that you do. But like, this dude, OG storyteller from like top to bottom. Can you talk a little bit about how you related to him in a few ways?
Yeah, so I mean, I'll take it back to like the initial like audition process and everything, because it ties so well into all of it. So when I had first gotten into acting, my agent was actually my mom's younger sister. She became the co-director of one of our major agencies down here in Hawaii, and we had all lived together at that time, and she would just put scripts and whatever and audition sides and everything on my bed or on my door, and said, with the due date written in Sharpie, says, get this done. If anything, it's money so you can go buy your house one day or whatever, you know? So I would do one after the other, started booking little things. Like we got this random audition that was kind of like unlabeled, unlisted. It didn't really say who it was for, what it was. Took a swing at it, and about a month or two later, we got a call from the Walt Disney Animation Studio. So I was new into like all the process of everything, and like I had just learned, like what, okay, there's an audition, and then there's a callback, and a second callback, and a test read, and a table read, and a test deal, all these kinds of things. And simply put, our casting director, Grace Kim over at Disney, says like, "Oh, we'd like to schedule a meet and greet with you with some of our production staff." I'm like, I don't, what's a meet and greet? I've never heard of that before. Like, quite simply, it was a meet and greet. It was just like jumping on a Zoom and talking story. And I remember jumping on this Zoom, and they'd given me a list of the people involved, and probably in retrospect, probably for the better, I didn't look them up prior.
Mm.
And I remember jumping on the Zoom and seeing all these people, and there were all of these like Disney, like it finally clicked, Moana-esque like paintings and like concept art and everything in the background. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And they're like, hey, how's it going, Hua? We just want to come and chit chat with you about a project that we're doing. But before we get into it, tell us a little bit about yourself. So I'm like, oh, okay. My name is Hualālai Chung. I'm from Kaneohe, Oahu. I love to sing, dance, mess around with my friends, tell jokes, pranks, and when I'm not doing any of that, I'm probably out in our bay over here on my boat, stuck because sometimes my motor works and sometimes it doesn't. And I'm waiting for the Coast Guard to come and tow me in. And they just like started laughing and kind of like looking at one another, and they kind of like came back on and were like, you basically just described the entire character that we're looking at.
Oh,
That's what I
that's
was just thinking.
awesome.
Tell you what the project is. And they're like, and it's kind of uncanny. You kind of look like the character in a little bit of a way too. I'm just like, okay. So basically that was like the initial, they
Yeah.
explained who Moni was, like where his role was in the course of the film and the course of the storyline of the entire Moana story. And immediately like I felt like I was him. Like we weren't even, it wasn't even like me pretending to be somebody. It was just me being me. And like um we grew up over here like with a lot of like Polynesian cultural influence. So, like a lot of the time I feel like the pressure to be like, oh, saba, like, oh, how's it, bada? Like real butch and real like manly, so like getting that opportunity to like let my inner child like actually speak again was so much fun, being able to do all the high range like, oh, like all that kind of stuff was so fun because there was a part of me that was always wanting to be like that all the time that just naturally in life I just don't get to experience as much. So moving into like actually doing sessions, being Moni, it was cool. Like they would give me opportunities to improv certain things, but there was one line. Oh man, there was one line that I remember it just stuck me. It was one of my sessions up in Burbank at the studio, and we had our writer and our executive producer, who's actually head of Disney Animation now, Jared Bush, in the booth with me. And he kind of talks to me, he's just like, oh, this next line, because we would normally go in segments of like conversation. This one, he's like, oh, we're just gonna just read just this line. He's like, read it a couple times in your head, and then instead of performing it in sets of like five, just say it once, and then just sit with that. I'm like, okay. And I remember like reading it and like realizing what the line that he was talking about and why we were doing it this way. And already I'm getting choked up. And he's just like, whenever you're ready. I'm like, okay. And it's a line for anybody who's watching this podcast, listening to this podcast that doesn't hasn't watched the film yet. I'm sorry.
You better have.
Yeah, you better have. But it's the line towards the midway of the film, and Moni speaks to the idea that like I spent my entire life searching for some of the greatest stories of our people, and thanks to you, I get to be in one.
I just got chills. That's great.
Stopping and like pulling away and like bawling, and they're just like, "You good?" I'm just like, "Bro, what is going on right now?" I'm like, "Holy moly!" Like, dude, like a year ago, I'm just at the beach in Hawaii, like with my friends, like eating, like messing around, like probably checking my bank account, making sure it's not red, like just doing that kind of stuff. I was just like, no, like you're telling me that I'm in one of the, at the time, like I'd done my little bit of research on one. Now you're telling me that I get to be in the sequel of the most streamed movie of
Mhm.
2023, like, and being one of the main characters. And I'm like, this is crazy. And that line just like spoke it all. Like it's in the story. I'm talking to Moana, but being there, being able to perform that line and record that line specifically in the studio in Burbank. Jen Lee was there, Yvette
Wow.
Marino, Christina Chan, like our whole like executive staff is sitting in this control booth. All the people, even our casting director, she came down from her office because she wanted to be there for that session. And I'm like, wow, like, oh my gosh, like, what
Yeah.
is happening? And I remember just asking this, like, they're like, what are you feeling? I'm like, like, why? I don't know. Like, why me? Like, I don't understand. Like, I don't come from much. Like, I don't even have like a resume. Like, why, why me? Like, and they're just like, because obviously Moni's you, and
Oh,
there's no one else. So, and I'm like, and they're like, yeah. So, you're here because you have to be. It's the only way the movie works. I'm like,
that's amazing.
so it was moments like that the connection felt the strongest, that the embodiment felt the strongest. And I think all in all, my own representation felt the strongest, to feel seen like that. So even more so, it's like when I think of things like writing songs, like portraying a character in something else, it's like, man, I want that representation to be felt. It's
Mhm.
the same way that was felt for me in that very moment. So yeah.
Yeah. I think
Thanks
mission
for
accomplished. Yeah. Thank you for sharing.
wrecking us.
Yeah, no, that was a crazy one. I mean, that will stick with me to the day I go.
Yeah. It's like one of those like eureka moments or whatever they call it, where it's just like everything kind of settles into like the reality of your situation. You know
Yep.
what I mean? Like what you said about the bank account. like that's like so real. And I think people need stories like yours where it's just like you when you get the chance to like do something bigger than yourself,
Yeah.
the fact that when you fully realize that when you're in that Burbank recording booth, like with surrounded by people who believe in you, I can't imagine the validation you must have felt in that moment. And further, and like moving further, I mean, even just like again, thank you for coming to our podcast. But like, like you said, a year and a half ago, we probably wouldn't have heard your name. And now I'm so grateful that we have. And
Thank
Moni was my favorite character in the sequel
Absolutely.
because that's who I connected with. Probably for you too, Ash, where it's just like I'm a storyteller. I like drawing. Like I'm a little scared of the ocean. Like like all these things to coming together. But I you mentioned Moni is you. That's how they saw you. But I am curious how being in the booth and being like giving your lines how
you.
you maybe saw the character shift more into you from what they had intended. Did that happen at all, you think?
Yeah, I mean, working on the film, I mean, working on animation, I've learned, like is very vast and in depth. That we have so many people with different ideas and different I guess you could say opinions of how a scene could pan out. So a lot of the times, when it comes to the tech side of things, like we batch everything, like 10 to 20 times per line.
Mm.
So it was cool being able to develop myself in Moni and being able to develop that as the storyline went so that when they could piece together which takes, which moods, which tones develop the character in the final film, like I resonated with that fully. But the coolest thing is that I don't get to see that until the very end. So it wasn't until like our cast and crew rap party up at the Dolby in LA in Hollywood that I got to actually see any real conversation amongst characters to see
Mhm.
like final animation with my voice coming out and any of these types of things. And I resonate with that whole experience because, for me, like I'm really into like Hawaiian tattooing, like uhi and everything. And a lot of the time for us, when you get tattooed, you don't get to see what it looks like prior.
Mm.
You do the research of where you come from, your ancestral lines that you represent, all these types of things, and you lie down and you leave it up to your kupuna, your spirits around you to speak to your kahuna kauhi or your tattoo artist and let the design flow from there. So when you get up, there's this instinctual connection to what it is with very little major regard for what you see on the surface.
Mm.
So, like being in the booth, there was like the kind of like that instinctual, like mental, like cultural, like trust in the idea that I am the character. We're gonna record the line like a million times, but the end result is gonna be me, and it's gonna come out as me. And I think that trust and that respect was very mutual on behalf of our directors and our writers. And at the end of it, a lot of our sessions, like everybody would kind of have their specific ways that they would want certain scenes to go, but they would always allot a certain amount of time at the end to be like, okay, now you go. Give us like
Yeah.
10, 15 takes of however you see it. And I'm like, really? And they're just like, yeah. Stuff like that. One of the things I loved so much that I've actually gotten a lot from the Polynesian community is, the way that I faumu or the way that I chihu is it's a real like gritty like way that wasn't as seen in the first film. So a lot of people are like, "Oh, it's nice to hear like from the mud kind like chihus and everything like going off." I'm just like, yeah, because I mean, we were in the booth and there would be certain lines where they're like, "Oh, so like you're gonna cheer, so you're gonna go woo or whatever." I was like, I remember being able to tell them like, like I think honestly I would never do that. Like I wouldn't do that. Like if my friend just like sinked a 3-pointer or something, like we would follow like, like all this kind of stuff and whatever. So they're like, oh, okay, give us a bunch of those. So it was so much fun to play around with who Moni was and to grow the attachment and the bond between myself, in this realm and Moni and the story of Moana.
Mm.
This
I
is a
love it.
this episode is wild. This whole time I have gotten like such a physical
Mm.
like reaction of like chills and like I'm on like fire just hearing about this is like such a universal moment where like the simulation kind of like leaks itself a little bit and it's like, oh, what is happening? I love this so much and I'm so grateful for it. And fun fact, like Filipino culture, the tattooing that we do is very similar. You just trust your ancestors. You send a message out to your spirits. You have your family, you have your community hold you down and you just trust the process. And I love, love, love that message of trusting the process, just trust. And with animated films too, everything is up here. Like you see
Mhm.
storyboarding, but like while you're in the booth, you're just coming up with all these things in your mind that you can't even imagine. That video I saw on your Instagram, was that like truly the first time you've seen the movie?
Yes, the one I'm sitting with my mom.
Oh, that's your mom. Oh, she's
Yeah.
like tapping you and stuff.
Yeah. So that's me and my mom. Yeah, we took her, and it's so funny because we're sitting there in the Dolby, and like at the risk of sounding inappropriate, I didn't know that that's where the Will Smith slap happened. We're there. We're there, and like I'm from Hawaii, so it's like we just know what we see on social media and everything. And I remember talking to Abigail Barlow and Emily Bear, our songwriters, and somewhere in the distance of conversation, like people are saying, like, "Oh yeah, the last time I was here was when somebody got up on stage and slapped somebody else." I'm like, I'm there at the cast and crew rap party for Moana 2, and above all of that, I'm like, "Wait, this is where the slap happened? Oh my gosh!" That's crazy. And they're just like, yeah, right there on the stage. I'm like, oh, dang. So it's like, that's my childish, like, Hawaii boy, like, demeanor. But yeah, being there to watch the film for the first time was amazing. I mean, being able to do it with my mom, um,
Mhm.
her parents were the ones that really instilled like the Disney love in us. When my grandparents got uh had retired, like my mom's younger sister lived in California, so they would go like every month, fly up there. Like they had annual passes. They would go just to eat.
Yeah.
So, like later on in life, I was like, I want to do that. So prior, like I think starting in like 2015, like I was going like every other month or like
Mhm.
a park, whether it be in Japan, whether it be in Florida, whatever. So, I mean, to be able to have that Disney love really comes from that line and that lineage. So to me, it's like it's fun to experience it, for me. But oh man, it's so much more fun to experience it for the people that have put that in me,
Yeah.
I
Same
Yeah.
thing
mean,
at our world premiere here, on Oahu in Kolina.
Mhm.
There's the scene in the film where the whole village groups together and sings that Tokelauan chant and sends us
oh,
off, right?
Yeah.
Um, And I remember like sitting there and we were out in this open air, almost open air theater. Disney had basically built this entire movie
Mhm.
screen out in this cultural property. It's basically an open lawn with surround sound, crazy good sound tech so that it like sounded like you were in a theater. But at the same time, you look up and the stars are above you. And then if you listen close, the shoreline is crashing right behind you. And I remember just this scene coming on and looking around and seeing this entire crowd just like jaw dropped at what was being depicted and that vision of community and that vision of unity like that. And that's when I got emotional because I'm like, oh my gosh, like I feel such a passion about this story and such a passion about this film. But to see everybody like kind of like in awe, like just connected to it, like that's what makes it all worth it, That's where I was like, oh my goodness, like we're doing it, fam. We're in the chat.
Yeah.
Let's go.
We're cooking, chat. That's what's up.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to get ahead of, I'm still crying from so, jeez. I don't want to get ahead of anything, but I did take a little scroll on your IMDb and I see you got something. Are you allowed to talk about that?
Yeah, I mean I think so. I yeah,
it's filmed, right? So
and it's coming out I think in March. Yeah,
yeah.
live action. That
But
was fun, being able to have a role in that. I've been able to grow good relationships with like the starring cast of that film as well. The guy who plays David is actually my classmate from high school.
Hold the phone.
ah,
What?
Yeah,
What? Sorry,
yeah,
everyone. We're talking about Lilo and Stitch, the live action.
is
yeah.
his hair
There's
fancy in real life?
Yes. Yes. And he's such a good guy and such an amazing like selection to play that role. So just to be able to be part of like the community of that story as well, like
Yeah.
that's so fun for me. I can't wait for everybody to see that as well.
I was at a junket the other day and they were talking about setting something up in Hawaii, and I was wondering, I was like, I wonder if that's for the Lilo and Stitch movie. And I was just like, hopefully they invite me. But yeah. Oh, so it's May 23rd is when Lilo and Stitch is releasing. So it's coming. It's coming.
Yeah, I can't
Oh,
wait for you to see that.
I like that.
because this whole time you're talking about like representation, being in the community, your love for Disney, and like you're still in that. You're in the world now. You're in the Disney fam. This is nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. I mean, it's it's so funny. It's so like hot cold over here in Hawaii because it's like, you meet so many people in the mainstream world and you try to uphold this like this responsibility and this highness of like of being in all of that, being in that world, being in that place. But then you're also from like small town Hawaii where your family really doesn't care and they're still gonna tell you to come and rake up the leaves and clean the pool. You know? So I
Hey,
remember
after your world premiere,
Hey,
can you come back here and do some
yeah.
chores?
No, 100%. I mean, at the premiere, at the world premiere, I remember like watching. Don't get me wrong. I'm gonna say this with a pre-warning. I love my dad to death. I know my dad is so proud of me, and he's so proud. But I remember us being at the world premiere and watching the film, and I'm like basically like just finished Kangi, just finished crying, and I'm like, I look to the side of my dad with this hope of like satisfaction and just pride, and this is my dad. Oh,
Straight up
there's the
asleep.
humility. Yep,
yeah.
there's the humility. Gotcha.
I think that's just a dad thing, man.
Yep,
That's a Disney dad if I ever did see one.
yep, 100%. I'm just like, oh, okay, yep, yeah, right on. High five, bro.
So we want to be gracious of your time. Thank you so much again for being on here too. I would love to ask one more question and then wrap up, but I have to shout out, dude. You just released Let Go. Like that's such a huge feat. Not only did you just release this new movie, this is a major box office hit 1 billion, like huge, huge, huge success. But you also just birthed a new song. Can you tell us about your new song and like your musical journey a little bit?
Yeah, totally. So I mean, I've always been into music. My dad and my uncles were big time musicians. My family, like our lineage, we come from a musical family. I have ancestors, like my grandparents and their siblings. They used to pen a lot of like some of the more traditional Hawaiian, Hawaiian language songs that we do here in Hawaii. So it's always been kind of instilled, but got into songwriting back in high school, was part of a reggae band called High Remedy that we released an album and a couple singles and did a couple tours and everything. And then I went back to school and I wanted to just focus attention on school. And it was during all of this last couple of years of new experiences and from COVID, just wanting to try all kinds of different new opportunities. My mentality was don't give up an opportunity that's not yours to give up. So,
Mm.
if I have a song I want to write it. It's not my opportunity yet. Like put it on the radio. Like do whatever. Just try. So in doing so, like I've been able and been grateful to have written a few songs that I feel like touched at least people within my reach. And I just thought, okay, well, we'll just keep going. Um, and given these last couple of years, there's been so many ups and downs for a lot of people around the world, as we see in social media and newspapers and articles on the news, so on and so forth. I mean, even here in Hawaii, after the Lahaina fire, that was a crazy, crazy experience. And it's something that a lot of us really relate to with what has gone on in California and LA. So, um, there's been a lot of hard times. And when I reflect on like the hard times in my life, part of my problems always with growing and getting past it is I hold a grudge.
Mm.
I can be like vindictive, like I hold a grudge, and that's when I realize, you know what, I'm being my own worst enemy. I don't want to work with certain people because of something they said to me 10 years ago. Or it's like, dude, get over it. They're not the same
Mm.
person they were 10 years ago. So it's definitely been a battle. It's definitely been something so hard to palate, but I mean, it just kind of came forth that like, right, you got to let go, let grow.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what the song talks about is just, like you can't control other people. You can't control every circumstance around you. You can only control yourself. And even if it's, like at the caveat of being a little fake, like if you got to let go of it just to be like, hey, how's it, man? Like to shake a hand that you still don't really want to shake. Like that's a step in a good direction, and it's a step in not having any burned bridges. It's a step in growth and being able to like let go of harsh feelings so that you can be a more positive character, so that your cup is not filled with sour milk, so on and so forth. So kind of wrote the song in that sense. Started writing and producing my own music maybe early 2024. So we have about 6 to 10 songs batched up that will be released over the course of the next like year, eventually going into EP and an album. But one of my main goals with all my music, with a lot of my music, has been I want people to listen to it and not think it was made in Hawaii.
Oh,
So I
interesting.
want people to listen to a pop rock song, to a 80s R&B song, to an old school jazz R&B song, and be like, "No, you guys didn't make this in Hawaii. There's an LA producer or something," and be like, "No, all the musicians, the sax player, it's from Hawaii. The trumpet player from Hawaii. Everything production was from Hawaii because our people are awesome, as well as a lot of people in a lot of different communities. And if anything, there's a lot to take away from that in the idea of just like still just going for it, you know?
Yeah.
You're an amazing flute player somewhere in Kentucky. You know, like put yourself out there. Go for it. I mean, specifically, I don't know what you could do with that, but you know, like go for it. You
Yeah.
know? So there's so many like subliminal messages and subliminal like ideas that I've tried to have with some of my music, and Let Go is one that I wanted to start off this new year with. You know, there are so many people in my close circles that have gone through certain battles and certain trials and tribulations. And, you know, for me, first step is, you know, you can't move forward if you're the one keeping you from walking. So let go of it, rah. Keep
Heck
going
yeah.
and
You know,
go on the way.
there's so much that we can pull from this episode for like lessons and just like inspirations. I love what you're saying about the music thing because you know, Bad Bunny, he did something similar with his last album where like all the instrumentation are like young kids from Puerto Rico, you know, and he's like trying to uplift his community. I love that you're doing that for Hawaii as well. But you know, man, at the end of our episodes, we always give an opportunity to our guests. You know, we pass the mic over. So whether you want to promote something or give advice, we open this space up for you to give us like one last thought. But you've already given us so much gold, so I'm just gonna let you take it away. You know what you're doing on this thing.
Yeah, no, I mean, quite simply put, and it's a coin on Moana too, you know, like
Ah,
go beyond what you think that you can do, go beyond what anybody says you can't do. Go beyond, man. I mean, if you don't, you're in the exact same place that you started. So just keep going beyond anything that you can, will, want to do, you will do one way or another. Just keep going. Um, Check out my music on all on all streaming platforms, Spotify, iTunes, so on and so forth. But above all, you know, I'm just one cog in the whole chain of everything. Go be your own cog, go beyond and go inspire somebody.
be your own
Man,
cog.
thank you. That was amazing. What a great episode. I'm feeling jazzed up. I'm ready to go.
Thank you, thank you.
Awesome. Ash, any last words while we wrap up today?
Sorry, I was busy typing all your quotes.
I know she has a list of your quotes being
Hey,
live.
make sure you get cog spelled right.
I did.
Make sure we subtitle that so that that's not like a meme on anywhere.
That's funny.
No, we got you.
Like a
We
bunch
got
of
you.
eggplants and stuff.
Oh, no. This has been, I'm not gonna shit you right now. This has been one of my favorite podcast episodes we've ever recorded. Monica, thank you so much for having him on. Like, thank you so much for your time. This was
For
honestly
real.
like what a genuine pleasure this has been to talk with you. And thank you for letting just hop in with us and like
Yeah.
going straight into it. This is so fun. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you guys.
seriously.
Yes, seriously, so much for the opportunity. Whatever you guys need, whenever. I got you. Thank you guys. You guys have been awesome.
Amazing.
Cool.
Amazing.
The Tremendous Talk podcast is produced by Lawrence Sharma, Ashley Rapuano Sanchez, Gabriela David, Joseph Garalde, and Jeremiah Abraham in collaboration with Tremendous. The Tremendous Talk podcast jingle is by Jared Sanchez and Ashley Rapuano Sanchez, produced at Amsterdam Records.